Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Hello. So nice to see so many people out. I know we've all been housebound, so it's nice to have something to do on a Saturday afternoon, isn't it? I'm Nancy Putty, in case some of you don't know. I'm the chair of the Friends of the Wellington Library. We're pleased to welcome you to this year's Passion Series. We will have 3 presenters this year. Roz is the first, obviously. Next week is Mark Armstrong. We are going to gather at his glass blowing studio, and he will talk to us about the art of glass blowing and do a demonstration to create one of his pieces of art. You have to register for that though, because space is limited. And then the next week, January 31st, Chris Brainey, Hillier counselor, will be here. He's going to talk about the importance of community working together. Probably you don't know, but he's a farmer as well as a counselor. He grows apples for cideries. I don't think he grows grapes.
Yes, he does.
He does, okay. He grows grapes as well to sell to the wineries. So this afternoon we are pleased to have Roz Bound with us. She is a member of the Friends of the Wellington Library, which she tells me started in 2001.
1999.
Oh, 1999. Close enough, okay.
Close enough.
Close enough. She's been a long-time resident of Wellington, and she's a promoter of Prince Edward County's literary community. Roz is a poet, a writer, a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. Every December, for the Friends of the Library, she is the organizer, the MC, and presenter of the program that we run called Christmas in the Village. It's an uplifting program of seasonal readings and music. Look for it in the paper. Try to join us. It's really a lovely program. And about 25 years ago, Roz founded a group called Wellington Open Floor, which is a forum for poets, local poets, to meet, share their work, and hear other people's work. It started with 3 people, the first session, and has grown to a steady number of 20 generally. So and that group meets here every month on a Friday night. You're welcome to join if you are a writer.
Or if you're just an audience,
Or
too.
you just want to come and listen. That's true. That's true. Roz is the author of 2 poetry books and a book, her latest book, which is entitled Aging Consciously, Dying Awake, A Path Forward. She explores aging, death, spiritual and emotional growth. She is ready to talk to us. And she is going to present to us her passion, which she told me is, my passion is ... life.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. We started...
I'm sorry, I forgot. Vicki reminded me, please turn your phones off if they're on.
And if you can't hear me, please wave. Okay, I've got that ear thing going where your voice sounds as if it's coming from a big tunnel somewhere, so I can't hear how loud I am. So if you can't hear me at the back or anywhere, just wave. Okay, Chris? Thank you. I'm so honored to be the first speaker this year for our series that started actually 10 years ago, the Passion Series. And we also had some talks back in 2001 or 2002. So you're part of a very big tradition of Wellington Friends of the Library, which is a great group of people, and we always welcome new members. There's really nothing to do. It's really just a couple of meetings a year, and it's lovely. So if you want to be a member of the Friends of the Library, please talk to Nancy or Diane or me or Don. I'm going to begin by reading a poem because it always kind of steadies me a bit, and it has a theme of today's talk. It's called Wishbone. What's left of me after all those years of teenage dreams and 30s dances? blank canvas faces waiting for someone else's stroke of genius. I've shifted shape, grown beyond an aging duplicate of promise born in bombing raids decades ago. Missing bits of flesh torn away and left behind, splinters healed invisibly at last in twisted form, earned scars and warts too faint to see with human eye. Unloving deeds, abandonment, or being the one who flew, all took their toll. Dues paid on time, donated blind, wrapped in layers of need. As years go by, this body's less the burst and more the soul that's left behind, the core that burgeons into fruit despite the hurricanes, a thumb-size agate slipped into your pocket to be rubbed in times of stress. The wishbone, that coveted bone that brings fortune in a single snap, still gleaming under carcass stripped by starved minds to whom I paid the price. The soul that held my life together now honors all the rest. It passed the test. It is now the prize. So that first year, I spoke about my passion for poetry. This time I found it more difficult to name a passion. I mean, think about it. If you could think of one passion that you have and could talk about it for a while. I'm less of a doer now and more of a beer. Andrew Harvey says that your passion is what keeps you awake at night. Exactly. The state of the world. Yeah, especially when I'm thinking of my two little great-grandsons. Writing is still very important to me. I'll get up in the middle of the night and erase a comma and then go back to bed and then get up again and put it back in. And there used to be mice in the wall that sounded like tigers scratching, but they kept me awake, but I wouldn't call them a passion. And then it came to me. My passion is life itself. Wondering at the magic of it. How I've lived this gift of a life to get me here today. All the choices that we make. How important the collective is, the community, as small as this village and as large as the galaxy and further beyond to the cosmos. As we pass in streets and airports, meeting and separating like the hundreds of butterflies that came to our garden once in our old house on their way to Mexico. They just danced and touched and flew away and separated and met. Just like the connections we make in life. And just like the cells dance inside our bodies. So this talk is about the beginning of me trying to explain life to myself. The necessity of awareness, of consciousness, of being awake to notice the signs, the synchronicities that lead us to different destinations, and how resilient we are with change. Living at a higher frequency. There seems to be an urgency. For the first time this New Year's Day, I wondered if I would be around to see the next one. That surprised me. It wasn't a doomy thought, though. I mean, it did encourage me to tackle the boxes in the cellar. It was a curiosity, almost an excitement, maybe adding to that urgency. Although my soul tells me to relax and pause, what I call the sacred pause. Life is experience, and we are the awareness of that experience. Learning from each other, practicing different behaviors, especially when responding to change. One big advantage of aging is that we have a lifetime to look back on and reflect on our lives. Anyone who knows me well knows that I tell stories to explain things, and at 84 there's a lot of stories to tell. Somebody once said, if you don't tell your story, somebody else will. And we're seeing globally a lot of that these days. Margaret Atwood wrote, you're never going to kill storytelling because it's built in the human plan. We come with it. I always choke when I drink. I was hoping I wouldn't. Excuse me. So here goes. I've wondered about my existence since I was a little girl, spending much time alone, lots of time to think. I remember at 4 or 5, I was in the garden with my mother, and she told me to step on an army of encroaching ants. Well, obediently I did, but then I spent the rest of the day imagining what would happen if a giant foot came down from the sky and stomped on a whole crowd of people, crushing us, including me, just like the ants. I've often thought of that ever since, especially later on in history class learning about Hiroshima. On my 10th birthday, I stood on a street corner in my busy town, allowed to go for the first time by myself, and I watched a man far away, walking towards me, waiting for him to pass, with great anticipation, knowing that although I would never see him again, we were passing for a reason. I waited until we were side by side and took a breath, and then he was gone. I've never forgotten his face, but he's been behind my thinking all this time. Some theories say there's a reason for everything. Some disagree and say things happen as if we're victims of other people's choices. But it's taken me a lifetime to understand that everything is a choice of body, mind, or spirit. When I met my friend Ruth in 1999, after I moved to the county, we knew we'd met before. And eventually we worked it back to early 70s Jamaica, where we were both corporate wives, and we were introduced at a social function when the Governor General came to town. If her husband had been the bank manager in Kingston, Jamaica, instead of Montego Bay, Ruth and I would have been friends for almost 30 years before we finally met again when I bought her cousin's house. And then we found out that some years later we were in Chester, Nova Scotia at the same time, and when I moved to Canada, I was 16, Ruth was working very near to where my family stayed for a few months. But her dentist was in our building, so our paths must have crossed in the elevator or the lobby, or our energies did. Was that destiny? Nothing is an accident. So my thoughts on life have always been wound up with being part of something that's so much bigger than myself. When I was in grade 13, back in the late 50s, I wrote a poem, won a prize for a poem I wrote called Life. See, it's always been on my mind. Bear in mind, it's a young person wrestling with life and religion and the Cold War. But it also shows that I was trying to put into words what life is, why I was here or there, other than the uniting of a certain sperm and egg in July 1940. I also remember at that same time being very aware of pollution for the first time, and sitting on the front steps in the falling rain, studying pockmarks in the cement pavement, and wondering if the rain was poisoned. This simple poem is called Life. Life is but a roundabout, a dizzy circummotion that repeats itself again and again. There is a life across the sea that crashes itself in silver and green on an unknown shore of roads and twisting ways that we have grown to accept. Progress is a word that comes from discontent and want. And so the world is led into winding paths through stars and planets of a new tomorrow. Each individual life goes on, each custom, each primitive way of thinking, different from its brother. And then we leave this palpitating world to a fate unknown, to he who is no God. I know more now. Yes, each life is different from others due to so many factors. But now we know that we're all one, connected, in motion, each affecting the other. It's a paradox. The world doesn't circle around you or me. How many times did our parents tell us that? But the world does depend on you and me to be its creative expression and raise its frequency to a frequency of love. Life is breath. Last year I got a tattoo of the Sanskrit symbol of breathe to remind me of that simple fact. See, there it is. In that beautiful tattoo studio right across the street there. It's I highly recommend it if anyone wants a tattoo. He's lovely. Both my tattoos were done when I reached the birthdays of my parents when they died. 77 and 84. Not only to mark the fact that I outlived them, which I thought was quite an achievement, but also in recognition of forgiving them and me for the difficulties we'd all had in not being able to love fully. And it reminds me to breathe. Breath is the first thing we do when we're born. All the other systems have to kick in. Think it's a miracle. Every single system has to kick in when that little baby's born. But breath opens the lungs, sends oxygen on its journey, stirs those vocal cords when the baby announces it's here. When we stop breathing, we stop living in this realm, this planet. It's only recently I've been able to breathe deeply thanks to a wonderful therapy. Before that, my breath was very shallow. I was invisible, hiding my very existence. Years ago when I was working, I popped into a convenience store to buy a chocolate bar to get me through the afternoon. And I stood there waiting for someone to take my money. All of a sudden, a Korean woman popped up from behind the counter. "Ah," she said, "you are looking for hiding woman." Well, we both laughed, but I thought, yes, I am. I am looking for that person under all those disguises, for the roles we play in life. And it became not only the title of a thesis I wrote later, and maybe my second book, but it set me off on a search for that deeper breath. To stop hiding, to stop being invisible. And I mention that now because I've become so aware of the value of deep breath. It's a celebration of life. And I wonder if I would be so grateful if it wasn't for that not being able to breathe in yoga class or having met the Korean lady. Usually we take breathing for granted until it's compromised. But it's the source of our life. I like to think we're breathing in the air of the ancestors. After all, they've added generations of air to our atmosphere. And surely by breathing it in, we're breathing in their hopes and their fears and their dreams and their stories. And not just the breaths of the ancestors, but also our mentors and teachers of the past. Their words were heard by few. Now they're being heard by many more. We breathe them in too. And we breathe in the elements. The air, of course. We breathe in water and earth and fire. Our bodies are made up of those elements. We're basically stardust. There's a verse I love to sing. Not out loud, of course. But we do sing it together when we celebrate turning of the wheel every season. Earth is my body. Water is my blood. Air, my breath. And fire, my spirit. Especially when I'm going to the doctor or having a medical test, because it reminds me I'm part of the whole. I'm part of everything. Nothing is in isolation or separate. There's healing. As above, so below. Vicki and I took a course once with Barbara Marx Hubbard, an amazing futurist. And the project I had to do was to create a timeline of my life and show that in that depiction how certain events or transitions in my life were synchronized with world events. It's a great exercise if you've got a couple of snowy days and you want to sit on the computer. How our energy reverberated with the energy of the planet or the cosmos. I found that in all the transition times of my life, and there were many, there was a major breakthrough in heart medicine. transplants, pig hearts, pacemakers. Every time I moved somewhere, or every time when I got divorced, or every time something big happened in my life, there was a heart event in the world. And now, actually, just as my own heart is requiring some care, a non-invasive open heart surgery has just been refined. It's an interesting exercise to understand how we're part of that outer world as well as the inner one that we're so tied to. Sometimes we can't see beyond our own body. And do we ever discover as much as we can about that? It's fascinating to look through the threads of one's life, like Ruth and I passing and eventually meeting, and how I got to breathe better. Neil Diamond tracked my journey. His stones woke up my sensuality. Jonathan Livingston Seagull accompanied me out of confined spaces, and the jazz singer jarred me out of a stupor and helped me make one of the biggest decisions in my life. You've got to know where you've been to know where you're going. Is life predestined? Do we have a mission in life? And is how we achieve it up to the choices we make? Our free will? Who or what threaded through your life? I'm definitely not a scientist, far from it, but I'm very fascinated by quantum physics, the science that was discovered by Max Planck in the early 20th century. Quantum physics breaks everything down to the smallest possible. It's about connection. We are one. Nothing happens on its own. Separation is our biggest illusion, and observation is one of our most important skills. Science is getting closer to spirituality, and with quantum science, ideas once thought woohoo are now being proven as fact. Quantum studies give validity to why that proverbial butterfly flutters her wings, creating a hurricane on the other side of the world, and why she went into her cocoon in the first place. And now we're doing the same thing. We're in the mush of our collective cocoon, and our own imaginal selves are creating our future. Paul Levy describes quantum physics as the light of consciousness at the center of the universe. And Eckhart Tolle writes, we are not in the universe, we are the universe. We are a focal point of where the universe is becoming conscious of itself. And we are the instruments for its consciousness. Back to that responsibility we have for this wonderful life we've been given. Quantum discoveries tell us that our own cells are listening to us too, that they respond not to words, but to vibrations and energy, because we are energy. When we see the face of someone who has just died, that energy has left their body. Their faces look different, devoid of energy, devoid of color, lifeless. Everything responds to energy. We know if we come across someone with good vibes or an energy that we feel prickly, and we kind of have to back up a bit. As within, so without. Our inner bodies respond to energy too, turning against a rogue cell or welcoming in a new medicine, or vice versa. So how we communicate, how we speak and act and even think not only affects our energy, but the vibrations around us, but also the energy within us. Our bodies aren't just sacks of flesh that we lug around in this lifetime and can cut up and reshape, as sometimes we're led to believe. They're working miracles that only want the best for us. As our bodies age, they need assurances of the value of our value that we put on them for life by the care that we give them and the words that we speak of them. It's in the positive vibrations of our tone and our energy that we put into the intention behind our thoughts that makes the difference. And by positive, I don't mean sugary sweet and Pollyanna-ish. I mean the intention behind the words and thoughts is of a higher frequency, authentically kind and compassionate. Basically that. I find myself correcting myself. If I think something judgmental about somebody, and let's face it, we're all human, and then I actually apologize. To who? To that person? To creation? To spirit? But I reword my thought with the intention of being kind, not unkind. Watching dogs and babies respond to us proves this. They don't understand the words. Well, maybe dogs do understand the value of walk and treat, but it's the frequency of the vibration of our voice and our intention. If we come from love or we come from anger, that they smile at or cry or whine and run away if they're a dog. When I was a little girl, I learned about contour maps in geography class. Did you ever have that kind of class we had? I loved maps, learning about maps. And contour maps, as the hill gets steeper, the contours get closer and vice versa. And ever since those lessons, I always doodled in circles. And as one went out, another one would go further and further and further. And now I think I was doodling in circles of waves. And every time someone or something makes a move, it affects the waves around it, as if we're in waves. And I move over here, and the wave goes out over there a little bit. And I go back here, and the wave goes in a little bit. Just like water when it goes around a rock. We all contribute to that motion. Negative vibrations, repeating the latest news scandal, or watching a tragedy over and over and over on the TV, or thinking about someone judgmentally. It affects those waves just as much as a positive one does. And it creates more toxicity as the waves spread further. Did you ever hear that story about the taxi driver and somebody who got in the taxi with a taxi driver was very friendly and said good morning and smiled and talked and chatted to the taxi driver, treated the taxi driver like a person. The next time, the taxi driver was nice to the next passenger, and so on. And by the time the end of the day came along, the taxi driver went home and hugged his kids. Well, then there's the taxi driver that somebody got into the taxi who was in a really bad mood and was snarly and was nasty and kind of threw the money at him. Well, the taxi driver was not that good a mood for the next person. And it kind of went down all the way down. He went home and kicked the dog. So, however we put out, whatever we put out, spreads. And it comes back. It's like my theory of nesting eggs. These Russian nesting eggs. This one is a bit sticky. And they're all inside each other. When one vibrates, so do the others. And it's just like you and me. When we vibrate with our thoughts, our words, our deeds, so does the immediate world around us. And there's the tiniest one that is the smallest atom in the smallest cell in our body. When it vibrates, so the community of cells around it vibrate. And our body vibrates. And those vibrations go on out. And vice versa. I think that theory of mine began with my foot crushing the army of ants. Our life is not lived in isolation. It's been proved that one cell on one coast with another like cell on the other coast, they will respond if one is compromised. It's also been proven, and you know this, that plants that are treated with love and affection and lots of care flower and grow. And plants that are ignored and preferentially watered and really ignored and not very nice things happen above them or whatever, they die. As did children in Romanian orphanages that weren't given any care, were just, fed very casually and not played with, they would die within the first year. And there is such a thing as dying of a broken heart. Latest discoveries have shown that some baby cells, when the mother is pregnant, the baby cells in utero migrate into the mother's body, some of them. And they can stay there for an indeterminate length of time. So that a mom literally does know when their child has something big happening in their life. It's not just a coincidence when the phone rings and says, guess what? And the mother knew all that time. The cell in their body picks up that energy from the cell, wherever that other body is. One person can make a difference by being aware of what they think, say, and do. And I think that's the most important thing I've learned in this lifetime. Life, our existence, our reality, is one of choices. Whether we make a choice after many deliberations or on the spur of the moment, whether we defer the choice, hoping someone else will make it for us, or whether the choice is made for us and we have to then make a choice about whether we go along with it or not. Another choice. Maybe we have to follow, but we have to decide how to live with it. Avoid, adapt, adjust, or alter. My daughter wasn't happy with where she lived, but the low rent was too attractive to move. And then things happened. The owner got ornery. Appliances didn't work. Her job took her further away, but she still didn't move, and she still was unhappy. And then one night her house burned down, and the ceiling of her bedroom fell right on the bed just after she had dived down flaming stairs and escaped. The decision to move was made for her. We kind of jokingly say sometime, if you don't decide now, the universe is going to make that decision for you. Well, it can happen. Although her life was difficult for a time afterwards, she made decisions that changed her life for the better. Would they have been made anyway? She didn't move, so her house had to fall around her first. Think back to big choices you've made in your life and where they led to. Sometimes we don't see that end result for years, but you can track it back. If I hadn't done this, then that wouldn't have happened, or I wouldn't have met that person. I took early retirement 5 years early. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here now. Everyone and every experience is a teacher. We're all teachers for each other. Times are tense right now. It's like life is being lived in the funhouse at the carnival. The kind where the floor goes down and the walls go up and windows are crooked. Nothing is as it seems, and you feel slightly nauseous. But it's not funny. And we add to that the factors of aging, especially loss, which is huge as we get older. Keeping our own little world peaceful and kind helps. And not getting caught up in the drama. Even if you don't follow the news or believe in the sun flare's intensity, or you don't know what's happening further south, your body does. Your body feels the energy that's going around. Remember those nesting dolls? It reverberates. And we interpret it as anxiety or a headache, or we become easily distracted and fall. I read somewhere, and sadly I can't remember who said it, what matures on this path is not a perfected self, but the willingness to remain present without needing life to be different. That's a biggie. That's a biggie. The willingness to remain present without needing life to be different. Avoid, adapt, adjust, or alter. But how does that fit in with the current reason for thumping hearts and waking nights? Maybe alter our own reaction. And if you believe in karma, years later those ants got back at me because I was in Jamaica and I had a Christmas cake batter sitting on top of the freezer, which was outside. And you soak rum, right? Put rum in every couple of days, you're pouring more rum on. And one morning I came out and there's this army of ants marching over to the batter, up the side of the bowl and into the cake. And a few kind of wandering out. Yeah, staggering, they really were. So I kind of tried to get rid of the ones that were in the cake and gave up and baked them, and nobody was the worse for wear. Beware the cookies. I have found that the older I am, and I don't know if you've found this, but the older I am, the more I need to be grounded. It's strange because when I was looking after my father and he was ill and he didn't want to know anything about anything that was happening now, here in his life. And he used to love car races and he didn't even want to watch the car races. But he was fascinated by what was happening on Mars. And there was a first Mars exploration and he wanted to follow that. And I thought, well, maybe as I get older, I'll want to know what's more out there because that's where I'm going to go. But it isn't. I want to be more grounded. Maybe it's a response to the world right now. Maybe it's safe. Maybe it's a consciousness about my responsibility to life itself. I don't know. There's a Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. I like domestic tasks. I find them very grounding. Emptying the dishwasher, laundry, tidying up last thing at night and turning out the lights, turning them on again in the morning. Jung said that household tasks keep us human and closer to the earth. I like that. Sitting on my computer stool and writing, walking barefoot on the earth, helping others my way. Think about things that you do that bring you peace, contentment, and comfort to life. The simplest things, maintaining good relationships, being discriminating about which energies we let in, using all the senses, responding with a smile, appreciating your body for carrying your soul all these years, gratitude for this wonderful life that we've been given and the opportunities we've had within them. Messages from Neil Diamond, baking ants, being aware of what I think, say, and do, all those little choice points that got us here today. That's life. I meant to look up Frank Sinatra's song, actually. That's life. And I must do that when I get home. Yesterday, I was listening to a talk about consciousness, and Jim Garrison, the president of Ubiquity University and the State of the World Forum, said, individuality is coming to fruition in a collective way. I really had to think about that. But individuality, as I understand it, separated us. It led us into thinking we were separate from everything else. It's now coming together in community, which we need to survive. And we also, as elders, we need it for our existence. We need community. But we can celebrate that individuality as a necessary part of the one. We don't have to all be the same. We can be individual, but we also are so aware of our connection with each other. I found when writing this talk that there was so much more to say. I could either do it, an encyclopedia or a paragraph, but doing something smaller was harder. Life wouldn't be about breathing and vibrations and choices without spirit and soul. Once in a very tense moment driving in a massive storm, the word soul spirit flashed across my windshield. And forever after, my soul spirit has been my guide. For it's soul that makes those choices. It's soul that shows you the path to find the way home. Walking each other home. That's what Ram Dass said. It's soul that naturally pours out gratitude and love and hope and forgiveness. Life wouldn't be worth living without those. And it's soul that fills our compassion for all those who struggle. Michael Meade says, soul keeps spirit and matter related by sustaining an in-between realm of imagination, emotion, and deep reflection. I've just touched the edge of this. The edges are very evocative. Maybe your observations and reflections can help you dive further into your life, the story of which is so essential for our whirling world. And I'm going to end by reading another poem that I found in my crazy files called Soul. Look into your eyes. See soul, wise and ageless, timeless, ancient soul. What does soul see looking back? She's watched my body grow from first breath in. Now she sees aging heart and fading skin. Soul has guided choices, proved synchronicities and signs. Breadcrumbs on my path through life. Journey steps led through dark nights. Soul knows them well. We travel together to find the light stronger each time. When thinking of my years, I don't imagine 10 or 49 or even 72. I honor what I am today, 84. Every line and scar a story of elements that created this facade that carries soul. Stardust by another name. Soul took me far, wise and ageless, timeless, ancient soul. One day I'll look into my eyes and she'll say, it's time to go. She'll know she has to wriggle free, energy flying high to rest until she decides it's time to learn again, find another mask to wear, another family, wherever that may be. She'll choose the best, wise and timeless ancient soul. She'll come with me. I'll see her through my eyes. But what will she see? Pay attention. Chop wood, carry water, and breathe. May it be so. Blessed be. Thank you. Diane.
On behalf of the Friends of the Library and all of us here, I would like to thank you so very much for your talk this afternoon. You continuously amaze me. I mean, not only can she write poetry and make it enjoyable enough for me to listen to it, but your thoughts and your ideas, and you speak about choices, and whatever it was that made you choose to become active in this library when I was here, I will continuously thank you. You and your band of Friends of the Library have contributed so much, and we're so appreciative. And thank you for a lovely afternoon, and a welcome back to the Passion Series.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And thank you everybody for being here. You kind of wonder with the snow and everything else, and you think, oh, there's going to be, Nancy's going to be here, and Vicky's going to be here, and maybe, and it's okay, however many people are here, it's okay. But this is wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. There's some drinks and some cookies or munchies. Stay and chat. Thank you.